Sri Radha Krishna Bho Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giri Jai, Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Navadvip Dham ki Jai, Ganga Maya ki Jai, Swami the Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, all glories to the all glories to the Thank you very much. All glories to you, Prabhupada. Glories to you, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to His Confounded Grace. Slaisi Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. So we welcome everyone. Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Hare Krishna, yes, Hare Krishna.
Yes. Are you set, Smart? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. So dear devotees, we can take over Sarah.
Well, devotees, we thank you for being here. We have His Grace Salika Prabhu who will be speaking to us today. As always, this is an impromptu step in. Today was scheduled to have His Holiness Kabichandra Swami Maharaj speak, and there was a little bit of a misunderstanding with the timing. So Maharaj couldn't be here, and His Grace Salika Prabhu offered to step in. So we thank him for stepping in today. Of course, Salika Prabhu needs no introduction. So Prabhuji, if you're ready, I'll put the verse on the screen and you will take it over.
Yes, Prabhu, you can go ahead.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All right. Yeah.
Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Narayachaivam Narottamam Devi Sarasvati Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nasta Aprayesu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavatam Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistike. Reading from SRIMAD Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, chapter 5, text number 40 to 41. So we'll read the Sanskrit text, transliteration, then purport, translation and purport of Srila Prabhupada. Tat katyam chatalam Kliptam Urubiam Jutalam Vibu Janobiam Sutalam Sudam Jangabiam Tutalatalam Mahatalam Tu Gulpabyaham Prapadabyam Rasatalam Patalam Padatalata Iti Lokamaya Pumam. Word for word translation. That in east, Katyaham west, Cha also, Atalam, the first plenary system below the earth, Kliptaham, situated, Harubiam, on the ankles, Sutalam, the third plenary system below, Sudaham, purified, Jangabyaham, on the joints, to but, Latala, the fourth plenary system below, Mahatalam, the fifth plenary system below, to but, Abhyaham, situated on the calves, Prabhupada on the upper or front portion of the feet, Rasatalaham, the sixth plenary system below, Patalam, the seventh plenary system below, Pada Talata Talataha, on the bottom or soles of the feet, Iti thus, Loka Amaya, full of plenary systems, Pun Maham, the Lord. Translation, purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. My dear son, Narada, know from me that there are 7 lower planetary systems out of the total 15. The first plenary system, known as Atala, is situated on the waist. The second, Vitala, is situated on the thighs. The third, Sutala, on the knees. The fourth, Talatala, on the shanks. The fifth, Mahatala, on the ankles. The sixth, Rasatala, on the upper portion of the feet. And the seventh, Patala, on the soles of the feet. Thus, the Virat form of the Lord is full of all plenary systems. Purport by His Divine Grace, Labai Charna, Desi Bhakti Vedanta Swami. Patita Pavandaga Guru Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Modern enterprisers, the astronauts who travel in space, may take information from SRIMAD Bhagavatam that in space there are 14 divisions of plenary system. The situation is calculated from the earthly planetary system, which is called Bhuloka. Above Bhuloka is Bhuvaloka, and the topmost planetary system is called Satyaloka. These are the upper 7 lokas or plenary systems. And similarly, there are 7 lower planetary systems known as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala Lokas. All these plenary systems are scattered over the complete universe, which occupies an area of 2 billion times 2 billion square miles. The modern astronauts can travel only a few thousand miles away from the Earth, and therefore their attempts to travel in the sky is sometimes like child's play on the shore of expansive ocean. The moon is situated in the third status of the upper planetary system. And in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we shall be able to know the distant situation of the various planets scattered over the vast material sky. There are innumerable universes beyond the one in which we are put. All these material universes cover only an insignificant portion of the spiritual sky, which is described above as Sanatana Brahmaloka. The Supreme Lord very kindly invites the intelligent human beings to return home back to God in the following verse of the Bhagavad Gita 18:16. Abrahma Bhuvala Luka Punar Avati no Juna Mamupetia tu Kaunteya Puna Jamana Vidyate. Beginning from the Satya Loka, the topmost planet of the universe, situated just below the eternal Brahma Loka, as described above. All the planets are material and one situation in one of the many material planets is still subject to the laws of material nature, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. But one can get complete liberation from all the above-mentioned material pangs when one enters into the eternal Brahma Loka, Sanatana atmosphere, the kingdom of God. Therefore, liberation as contemplated by the speculative philosophers and the mystic is possible only when one becomes a devotee of the Lord. Anyone who is not a devotee cannot enter into the kingdom of God. Only by attainment of a service attitude in the transcendental position can one enter into the kingdom of God. Therefore, the speculative philosopher, as well as the mystic, must first of all be attracted to the devotional cult before they can factually attain liberation. Umagyanam timirandasya gyanam gyana shalakaya shakshu militam jena tasmai shri gurave nama shri shaitanya manurubhistam stapitam jena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swam padantikam Vandyam Sri Guru Sri Yutta Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganam Raghunatam Tam Tapsa Jibam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijanam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahaganam Alita Sri Vishaka Vitansha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapati Gopisha Gopi Kakanta Radhakanta Namostute Tata Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Shruti Devi Pranamami Haripriye Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripata Vande Shri Guru Dinatari Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shmyavadi Satyade Satarine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Tita Swami Iti Namine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupadaya Asitatmane Shri Gauraka Nashati Bhatiti Iteti Namine Vanchakarpataru Vyascha Kripa Sundhyasi Vascha Vatitanam Pavachnebhyo Vaishnavebi Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srinivasari Gaurabhata Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Takatwam chatakam kritam urubyam vitalam vibum yam sutalam sudam yangabyam tutula talatalam mahatalam tuga gulpabyam rapadyam yam rasatalam patalam patatalata iti lokamaya pumam. My dear son Narada, know from me that there are 7 lower planetary systems out of the total 14. The first planetary system, known as Atala, is situated on the waist. The second, Vitala, is situated on the thighs. The third, Sutala, on the knees. The fourth, Talatala, on the neck shanks. The fifth, Mahatala, on the ankles. The sixth, Rasatala, on the upper portion of the feet. And the seventh, Patala, on the soles of the feet. Thus, the Virat form of the Lord is full of all planetary system. Hare Krishna. So, dear devotees, thank you very much for being part of this transcendental sangha of the narration of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. So, before endeavoring to render this service, once again, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Vaishnava Acharya, starting from Lord Brahma himself to Narada, Vyasadeva. To our present acharyas is the Venerable Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada, yes, Master Srila Bhakti Maharaj. To all the Vaishnava predecessors who are assembled on this platform and are spread across the globe, and to all of the devotees in general who are fortunate to be in this moment of transcendental activities of the soul. I beg at the dust of your lotus feet that I may be able to render this service for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in service to our spiritual masters. I pray at the feet of His Holiness Kavichandra Swami Maharaj, by whose mercy you have this opportunity to render this service. May our words, our thoughts, and sharing be in alignment with what the Lord desires for the devotees to hear. Hare Krishna. So welcome again to this SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, the most auspicious activity of the soul. Of course, like every other verses of the transcendental narration of the scriptures, this is a beautiful verse, and it's a continuation of the dissemination of information or knowledge from Lord Brahma to his son, Narad Muni. So in this verse, there are 3 key points that are very sacrosanct that we'll be sharing upon. When we look at the beginning of this chapter, the top subtitle of this chapter, of course, is the cause of all causes, and which gives us the impetus to the first point that is raised in this point. Lord Brahma, in the beginning of this chapter, started addressing Narada Muni with different titles. In the beginning of this chapter, we saw that Narada started by asking a question, and it refers to the 8th chapter, to the 8th verse. There were different questions of Narada Muni. So it is important that we revise the beginning of this discussion. And from text number 9 downwards to where we are, which is the second to the last text in this chapter, Lord Brahma has been educating Narada Muni. So the first important lesson is that for every living entity that is existing in this material world, the importance of what Narada Muni did is what is sacrosanct here. That is the first lesson to learn. According to the very scriptures, everyone born in the material world is, especially in the age of Kali, is a Shudra. And the symptom of a Shudra is that he does not know. So for those who are intelligent in this age, according to the scriptures, the symptom of such an intelligent person or qualified human being is what Narada Muni has exhibited in the beginning of this chapter. by endeavoring to ask questions. Because everyone is actually ignorant in the conditional life, from the highest planet to the lowest planetary system. Every existing being are covered with some level of ignorance, goodness, passion, or ignorance. And even the materialists, they identify this. In the words of one famous American karateka, Ed Parker, he once said that the intelligent man is one who has successfully fulfilled many accomplishments, and yet is willing to learn more. That is the symptom of an intelligent person. An intelligent person is no, even though when he has accomplished more. And one of the greatest accomplishments of the living entity is that he has been awarded this conditional body. And alongside with this material body, he has the capacity to make a choice of what he does. That is his wealth that comes along with his birth. Of the living entity is to ask questions, because everybody is in ignorance. Because there is no one in the material world that is liberated according to the very scriptures. Everyone in the material world, within the scope of the three worlds, are all ignorance. So Narada Muni taught us, it teaches us here in this chapter, what is the duty of everyone who has found himself in this jagat, in this environment of material world. Whoever does not ask questions in this material world is a foolish person. An intelligent person is known in this universe by his approach of asking questions. In a gross material environment, to ask questions is considered to be stupidity or foolishness or lack of knowledge. But according to the Vedic scriptures, and even to the material scientists and educators, the symptom of an intelligent person in this material world is that he asks questions. So that is the first thing that Narada Muni exhibited. And his father, whom he is asking the question to, was not just an ordinary person. When we look at the verse 1 to 8 of the verse of this chapter, especially when we look at text number 4, Narada Muni was saying that, my dear father, what is the source of your knowledge? Under whose protection are you standing? And under who are you working? What is your real position? Do you alone create all entities with material elements by your personal energy? This is a very key question. Because one who is in ignorance, if he does not have a proper intelligence on what question is to be asked, to who is supposed to ask the question, on how it's supposed to ask the question, he will end up being cheated. Sometimes the living entity asks this question. Yes, if the living entity is conditioned, how can he distinguish between the truth and the lies that is permeating the environment of material existence? That intelligence is what Narada Muni is teaching us here, to know how to ask the right question. Although Narada Muni, he has seen his father, he has seen the superlative. When you see his questions from text number 1, 2, and 3, he has seen so many extraordinary activity of what Brahmaji is exhibiting. But to be able to distinguish whether his exact position, he asked that question distinctively. He said, my dear father, you have to describe to me, are you the origin of all origin? Because the title of this subtitle of this chapter is the cause of all causes. That is what Narada Muni wants to know. Is Narada is my father? Despite that you have exhibited the nature of a child is that he sees his father as the hero, as the most powerful, as the most excellent personality. It is natural. So Narada Muni here is teaching us that one should not be foolish, should not be childish. So he's asking, my dear father, what is the source of your knowledge? Under whose protection are you standing? And under whom are you working? For whom are you working? Are you working for yourself? Are you independent? What is your position? I want to know. This is the key lesson for every Sadaka. We must develop the intelligence to ask this kind of a question. It is fashionable in Kali Yuga for everyone to want to identify as one who has accepted a guru or a path of spirituality. Gross materialistic conditioned people who have seen, who have become the descendants of Shavaka Muni, who has propounded the philosophy of eat and marry in the West. This mentality, this mood has been absorbed by almost every living entity in this part of the world. But beyond this class of people, for those who are actually approaching God, who are approaching the subject matter of the spirituality, it is important. So now Damoni is exhibiting that here. And Lord Brahma, who is qualified a personality, is exhibiting, is explaining here that, yes, when we see Naramuni from his answers to his son, right from the first verse, when he started speaking in text number 9, Lord Brahma said, my dear boy, be merciful to all, including me. You have asked all these questions because I have been inspired to see the power, prowess of the Almighty personality of God. So from the beginning, Lord Brahma, he exhibited the quality of a bona fide representative of God. Thank you very much for bringing it up. He exhibited that quality. So when we are asking questions, who is bona fide student? Who is a bona fide teacher? That is being exhibited here. So Lord Brahma, right from the beginning, he expanded the qualification for him to speak. In other words, one is not qualified to speak transcendental subject matter if he himself thinks himself to be the supreme. And if he claims to be the supreme, he has to demonstrate that. When we look at the qualification of the speaker, let's look at an example in the Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asked 8 simultaneous questions from Lord Krishna. From text number 1 of Bhagavad Gita, text number 1 of chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asked 8 consistent questions. Arjuna said to Lord Krishna, he said, oh my Supreme Lord, oh Supreme Person, what is Brahman? What is the self? What are fruitive activities? What is material manifestation? And what are the demigods? Please explain this to me. Then in the next verse, he said that, who is the Lord of sacrifice and how does he live in the body, O Madhusudan? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death, the most important endeavor for every living being in the material world? Thank you very much, Sadi. This is real question of an intelligent person. An intelligent person asks a systemic way of question. When we look at the questions of Narad Muni to Brahma Ji, and Arjuna asking questions here, and it's interesting that Lord Krishna, he exhibited right from these 8 questions that Arjuna asked in this chapter, text 1 and 2. Lord Krishna, he started speaking from text number 3 throughout the whole of chapter 8. He went into chapter 9, and until in chapter 10, he kept on explaining, giving the glories of his personality. And interestingly, when Lord Krishna, in chapter 10 of the Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, he told Arjuna, before he declared the 4 Shatosloki, he said, from text number 6 downward, he said, these 7 great sages, and before them, the 4 other great sages, and then the manos, progenitors of mankind, come from me. I'm the source, born from my mind, and all living beings populating the various planets descended from them. One who is factually convinced of this opulence and mystic power of mind engages in unalloyed devotional service. Of this, there is no doubt. Then Krishna went further to now explain, I'm the source of everything. Everything is emanating from me. Those who knows this, they surrender unto me, only me, Krishna. So here, Krishna is establishing his position. So now we have an example of a perfect teacher, a perfect student. And that is the first lesson in this verse that we are reading today. So Brahma is telling Arjuna, that, Narada Muni, that my dear Narada, my dear boy, my dear son, look at it. This is who I am. And it started right from the text number 9, where he started answering Arjuna, Narada Muni, that I'm not the supreme. Only by the mercy of the supreme that I am able to do all whatever I'm doing. So Prabhupada said in the purport of the text we are reading today, that is where Prabhupada started the purport. Prabhupada emphasized the foolishness of the material scientists. And Prabhupada said modern enterprisers, and he used an example of the astronauts who travel in space. He said if they are intelligent, they should take information from the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, because the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM is an authentic scriptures. It's an authentic source of information. Rather than speculating, in other words, it's teaching us that if one wants to become successful, one has to approach the authority. So Prabhupada, in the first paragraph of the purport, he was emphasizing on this, and he gave this authoritative information, which we will find detailed in the 5th canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. In the 5th canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAm, there is elaborate explanation of all of the planetary system. And there is no end to explaining it. In fact, it is said that the discussion of this subject matter is something that, for one who is embodied, is a subject matter that does not come so easily. Trying to understand all of this, sometimes if carefulness is not taken, could deviate one from the path of bhakti, the goal. And that is why in the end, in the last stanza of the purport, Prabhupada diverted us back to the goal. Because the purpose of all of this knowledge of this planet is to bring us to something. And an example of that, in the 16th chapter of this 5th canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, in the 16th chapter, SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, Maharaj Parikshit was asking Sukadev Goswami. Maharaj Parikshit started that chapter 16 in the course of the discussions of the different planets. Maharaj Parikshit, he asked Sukadev Goswami, he said, "Oh Brahmana, you have already informed me that the radius of Bhumandala extends as far as the sun spread in its light and heat, and as far as the moon, and all of the stars can be seen. But what is important for us in this verse is in the text number 4, Sukadev Goswami, text number 4 of that chapter, Sukadev Goswami, he said something very significant. What did Sukadev Goswami say? Sukadev Goswami said, "My dear king, there is no limit to the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, material energy. This material world is a transformation of the material qualities, Sattva Gun, Rajo Gun, and Tamo Gun. Yet, no one could possibly explain it perfectly. Even in a lifetime, as long as that of Brahma, no one in the material world is perfect. And an imperfect person could not describe this material universe accurately. Even after continued speculation, O king, I shall nevertheless try to explain to you." So, in this chapter 16 of the 5th canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, Sukadev Goswami, who is the authority of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, is explaining the descriptions of this planetary system No human being has that capacity. So when we're talking about the cause of all causes, even Lord Brahma, as he's explaining to Narada Muni, he can only explain as much as he can, because the knowledge of this planetary system is so vast. When we look at all of the 5th canto of the SRIMAD Bhagavatam, when we go to the 26th chapter, Sukadev is emphasizing, he was explaining in the chapter 26 of that SRIMAD Bhagavatam, he was explaining very uniquely how powerful, how the living entities are foolish, trying to understand, unless by the mercy of the Lord. So therefore, Lord Krishna himself has said in the Bhagavad Gita, Prakite kriya mahanani, gunai kama saavasa, ahankara vibudatma kataam, iti mayate. So trying to understand this planetary system, this gigantic manifestation of the Lord, is another form of illusion, Maya. In other words, he submit himself to the authoritative statement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 4th chapter, Lord Krishna has told Arjuna that there are 4 kinds of persons. They will never be able to come to me. The goal of bhakti, the goal of Krishna consciousness is to come to bhakti, is to come to devotional service. That is the ultimate goal. But no one who is so agitated by the speculative knowledge, acquiring knowledge, will never be able to get to the end, because there is no end to it. So Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, in that chapter 4:16, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, and that 7:16, sorry, he said, the miscreants, those who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, those whose knowledge has been stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, they will never surrender unto me. So Prabhupada is using the astronauts as an example of this. Materially, by material intelligence, by no one can understand this manifestation of the Lord. As we read in that 16th chapter of the SRIMAD Bhagavatam 5th canto, all of these are the manifestations of the 3 modes of material nature. And they are unlimited to the extent that the limited senses of the limited conditioned soul cannot comprehend them. So one who is intelligent enough, it will take the essence of this narration. What is the purpose of this narration? Before we go there is an interesting discussion between Lord Krishna and Uddhava in the 11th canto. In the 11th canto of the SRIMAD Bhagavatam, if we take it from the text 1 of the SRIMAD Bhagavatam, in the 11th canto of the SRIMAD Bhagavatam, from the text 1, that discussion between Lord Krishna and Uddhava is described as Uddhava Gita. And it is said by the Acharyas. Yes, thank you. No. 14th chapter, I'm saying. 11th canto, chapter 14. 11th canto, chapter 14, from the text number 1. There is a beautiful conversation between Arjuna in the Uddhava Gita to express how the living entity can be so futile. In another purpose, Prabhupada explained that this subject matter of the planetary systems are so vast, and they just constitute a little fragment, like Krishna himself said in Bhagavad Gita. He said, what is the use of all of this? When we look at the 11th canto, this 10th canto of this 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, as I quoted earlier, when we continue at the end, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, he said, what is the use of explaining all of this to you? Just by fragment of my opulence, the whole world is permitted. That let's go down there a little bit from the text number 1. There's a beautiful question that was asked, and this is very important. This is a very transcendental subject. Why? Because, and it is said, this Uddhava Gita is said to be superior to the Bhagavad Gita. Why is it superior to the Bhagavad Gita? It is spoken by the same personality. This is spoken by Lord Krishna. And this is spoken to a devotee. But the difference is that knowledge is given according to this to the recipient of the knowledge. In other words, the teacher may be so vast in knowledge, but he can only give as much as the student can comprehend. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna was speaking to Arjuna. Although Arjuna is a transcendental, pure devotee of the Lord, but he was acting in the capacity of a conditioned soul who is confused. So what God does, Lord Krishna teaches Arjuna. Lord Krishna told Arjuna, he said, my dear Arjuna, you're not this body. And he started teaching. Then he went from there. He went to teach the nature of the soul. Then he went to Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and he gives so many. And that is end of all of Krishna's subject matter. He ended up in chapter 18. But here, but Krishna started speaking to Uddhava. And Uddhava asked a very beautiful question here. Uddhava said, my dear Krishna, the learned sages who explain Vedic literatures recommend various processes for perfecting one's life. Considering these varieties of viewpoints, my Lord, please tell me whether all these processes are equally important or whether one of them is supreme. Interesting question. Sometimes we ask questions like, okay, which is the best part of, even within the Krishna conscious Vedic fold, not to talk of the Western theology. Sometimes devotees want to know. And when we look at the subject matter of the cause of all causes, there are so many philosophies, there are so many exposition of knowledge on this subject matter. And sometimes they confuse the living entity. But let us listen. Sadif, please bring back that verse. Let us see what Krishna answers Uddhava here. It's an interesting point that to raise them. Lord Krishna told Uddhava, he said, in the first two verses, Uddhava was asking. In the second verse, he said that, my dear Lord, you have clearly explained the process of unalloyed devotional service by which devotees remove all material association from his life, enabling him to fix his mind on you. Now, Krishna is speaking. That is important. The next 4 verses that Krishna speaks is important here in relevance to this subject matter. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna, he's telling Uddhava here. He said, by the influence of time, the transcendental sound Vedic knowledge was lost at the time of annihilation. Therefore, when the subsequent creation took place, I spoke the Vedic knowledge to Brahma because I myself am the religious principles enunciated in the Vedas. 15:15. Go up, Prabhu. Then it went further. He said, Lord Brahma spoke this Vedic knowledge in to his eldest son, Narada Muni, what we are reading today. Now listen to the dynamics of what Krishna is saying here. Lord Krishna told this knowledge to Narada Muni. Then what happens after he shows it to Narada Muni? Let's go further. Lord Brahma spoke the Vedic knowledge to his eldest son, Manu, and the 7 great sages, headed by Bhrigu Muni, then accepted the same knowledge from Manu. Then let's go further. He then said, from the forefathers headed by Bhrigu Muni and other sons of Brahma appeared many children and descendants who assumed different forms as demigods, demons, human beings, Agyakas, Siddhas, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, Janaras, Kindevas, Kinnaras, Nagas, Kimpurusha, and so on. All of the many universal species, along with their respective leaders, appeared with different natures and desires generated from the 3 modes of material nature. This is important. Let's stop here. According to the capacity of the living entities, that the influence of the 3 modes, we explained earlier on that the whole of the Jagat is a manifestation of the 3 modes of material nature, one of the energies of Krishna. And that is so vast that no one, even Lord Brahma, as we quoted in the 5th chapter account of the SRIMAD Bhagavatam, he himself cannot understand it. But how do they express it? Now, it's explained here, according to the influence of the 3 modes, depending where these individual living species of living entities are, they understand this same subject of mind, of this different planetary system. When we talk about the 7 planetary system or 14 planetary system, there is so much of argument. Even within the devotees, there is so much, but that's why we're discussing this matter in this perspective. So, Lord Krishna continues. He said, therefore, because of the different characteristics of living entities within the universe, there are a great many Vedic rituals, mantras, and rewards. Interesting subtopic point. Then he went further. He said, thus, due to the great varieties of desires and natures among human beings, there are many different theistic philosophies of life. Listen to that. That's an important point. There are so many theistic. It's not talking of a theistic philosophy. He said there are many theistic philosophies of life which are handed down through. Now, listen to these definitions. Traditions, customs, and disciplic succession. There are other teachers who directly support even atheistic viewpoints. Let's go further. Oh, best among men, Udava. The intelligence of human beings is bewildered by my illusory potency, and thus, according to their own activities and their whims, they speak in innumerable ways about what is actually good for the people. Some say that people will be happy by performing pious religious activities. Others say that happiness is attained through fame. Some say by sense gratification, like Shabakamuni's philosophy. Some say by the philosophy of truthfulness. Some say by self-control, peace, self-interest, political influence, opulence, renunciation, interesting, right? Consumption, sacrifice, penance, charity, vows, regulated duties, or strict disciplinary regulation. Each process has its components. This is how the six philosophies of Vedic philosophies are developed. Now let's go to number 11. All these persons I've just mentioned obtain temporary fruit from their material work. Indeed, the meager and miserable situation they achieve bring future unhappiness, and based on ignorance, even while enjoying the fruit of their work, such persons are filled with lamentation. And that is why nobody is happy. That's why there's no agreement. Let's go further a little bit before we leave this place. Go a little bit more than further. So it's now, Lord Krishna says, O learned Uddhava, those who fix their consciousness on me, this is where we are going, giving up all material desires, share with me a happiness that cannot possibly be experienced by those engaged in sense gratification. One who does not desire anything within this world, who has achieved peace by controlling the senses, whose consciousness is equal in all conditions, and whose mind is completely satisfied in me, finds only happiness wherever he goes. Thank you very much, Prabhu. So this is the conclusion when we go back to the purport of Prabhupada. So that is why Prabhupada, after Prabhupada has given us his perceptions about different philosophers, Prabhupada said, he quoted the verse, Aprama Bhuvana Loka, Puna Abatino Juna. Prabhupada now said that beginning from Satyaloka, the topmost planet of the universe, situated just below the eternal Brahma Loka, as described above, all the planets are material, and one is situated in any of the many material planets is still subject to the laws of material nature, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. But one can get complete liberation from all above mentioned material plans when one enters into the eternal Brahma Loka, Sanatana atmosphere. This kingdom of God, therefore, liberation as contemplated by the speculative philosopher and the mystics is possible only when one becomes a devotee of the Lord. Anyone who is not a devotee cannot enter into the kingdom of God. Only by attainment of a service attitude in the transcendental position can one enter into the kingdom of God. Therefore, speculative philosophers as well as the mystic must first of all be attracted to the devotional cult before they can attain liberation. This is the conclusion of everything. That everything that is being said, if we wanted to start discussing this nature of the different planetary system, we will not finish this subject matter today. Even for the life of Lord Brahma, Lord Krishna has confirmed from the verses that we have quoted, no one can exhaust the discussion on this subject matter. But the conclusive point is that one must come to the platform of Bhakti. And that's what Lord Krishna says, that ultimately, for the conditioned soul, the greatest achievement is to four difficulties of the conditional life, which is birth, death, old age, and disease. That is when one comes to liberation. And when one comes to that liberation, then he can Bhakti is the summit of everything. So therefore, our endeavor in devotional service our engagement in Krishna consciousness should be pointed. It should be what? A absolute one truth. And what is that one truth? That Krishna is to be engaged, is to worship in bhakti, in service, as mentioned in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. So the whole of this narration of the subject matter of the cause of all causes, when we start looking back of this discussion, there are so many teachers that have spoken, and there is, in most often time, there is even disagreement in what is what, even within the Vedic translation, and that is what Krishna told Uddhava, that all of these discussions, there is no limit to it, because each and every one would explain it, this subject matter, according to his capacity. But the beautiful thing is that one who is able to come to this conclusion, that that this person is the one who has achieved success. That person is the one who is glorified. That is the one who has understood the essence of the whole of the narration of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. One is said to be a failure in the study of, in the practice of bhakti, on the study of spirituality, in the study of religiosity, if he has not come to this conclusion. So this is the summit of all of this discussion. And one who is intelligent enough, because each and everyone wants to express intelligence. To come to this understanding that Rishikena, Bhakti Ushyate, that nothing else but Krishna, devotional service, in loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is ultimate goal of life. Then we have attained success in life. Hare Krishna. I would like to stop here because I have some other engagement, Christian engagement somewhere. So I'll take one or two questions. Then and maybe if there are more than that questions that we can have devotees discuss it. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for giving the opportunity. Are you there? Are there questions or comments or contributions? It appears our host is having a challenge. We cannot hear you. Okay, while Prabhu is trying to fix his network challenge, I guess. If anyone has a question or comment, please kindly raise your hand using the hand emoji or directly. Yeah, Rasavan Prabhu, are you raising your hand? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, so if there are questions or comments or contributions or corrections, if there are some, we'll appreciate that. Sadi Prabhu seems to be having a challenge with his gadgets. Hello. Okay, if there are no questions or comments, I don't know what is the challenge. Sadi Prabhu seems not to be able to speak with us.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
All right.
Yes,
so everyone with a question, please you may do so.
Yeah. So Rasa
relax.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for today's class. In fact, when we read the text and I was hearing Patala look and the rest, I'm like, today's topic is going to be something like scientific. I didn't know how it's going to be done, but in fact, the explanations you made, giving text references from Bhagavad Gita and taking us back to the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, I'm like, wow. I just took a sentence from the beginning of your delivery when you said no one is liberated in the material world, according to the what's the name, Vedic scriptures. So I asked, if nobody can be liberated, then What about the Nitya Siddhas? What about the Uttamadhikaris? Are they also not liberated? Because the scripture is asking us to surrender to one who knows the truth. And if the same scripture tells us nobody can be liberated, then if a blind man leads other blind men, where are we going? Or are there any exception to this text? And if there are any scripture references, can you share so that we can also able to get more understanding?
Okay, thank you very much. Very beautiful question. Nice question you have just asked. These questions can be elaborately explained, but I'll just go straight to the point because, like I said, I have some preaching engagement which is in a few minutes, and I had to go. But your question, directly to your question, the living entities who are Nitya Siddhas, although they are within this material universe, they are not in this material world because there is no material world in their reality. That is why they tell you that Mahabhagavat or pure devotees who are on the platform of Uttama Bhakti, they do not see materiality. So for them, although they are in this material world, but they are not of this world. And that is what Jesus Christ also said in the Bible, that be ye in this world, as though you're not part of this world. So one who is in the transcendental platform of Krishna consciousness, it does not, there are so many references. Time will not allow me to go into them today because of the time constraint that I have. But the fact is that for one who has come to that platform, although they are within this geographical location called material world, within this external manifestation of the Lord, but they are not in the material world because they do not see, they see everything directly in connection with Krishna. So therefore, they are not conditioned by the influence of the three modes of material nature. So therefore, they can liberate those who are conditioned in the material world.
Thank you. Hare Krishna is well explained, understood now. I just wanted to clear my doubts about that.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a nice question. So maybe I take one more question, otherwise I have to go.
Well, Hare Krishna, thank you so much, Salika Prabhu.
Yeah. Thank you so much, devotees, for giving me this opportunity. I'm very deeply sorry. I know this is a very deep subject matter, which we could take for the next 2-3 hours, but it's an important one, and then I have an engagement in just about 5 minutes from now. So I beg the permission of all of the devotees to please allow me to leave for that engagement. Thank you very much for the opportunity to serve. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Well, so dear devotees, on this note, if no one has further questions, comments, or realizations to share, we may ask all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna mantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace Salika Prabhu, for such short notice step in and also giving such wonderful delivery. So, if we all may unmute, Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha,
Patitanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha.
All glories to Grace Salika Prabhu Ki Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Hare.
Go.